All right, welcome to another edition of the 24th Floor. We got a fully loaded show for you today. We're talking everything from college football and our undefeated Mid-South teams to high school football as the playoffs are getting closer and closer and closer. So let's start with the big idea. High school football heating up. Rich, take it away.
Yeah, Ruben, even with the season moving fast, there's still something rare in high school football around the Mid-South. Just 4 undefeated teams remain. Hit that big idea stinger for me. Germantown, Southwind, Covington, and Mumford have all been turning heads with big plays and high-scoring games week after week. From kickoff returns to dominating ground games, these teams have been making a statement.
All right, so this week we turn our attention to a matchup that's got everybody talking in the area. Brentwood Academy taking on Briarcrest. It'll be our game of the week for this Friday.
And joining us now on the 24th floor, the head coach of the 5-2 Saints, Phil Massey. Welcome back for the second time, sir.
Thanks.
Coach, appreciate you being here. This one's going to be tough. I think you can kind of just say, let's start with that. This one's going to be tough.
Yeah, they come in, they're undefeated. Got a very explosive offense. They're averaging 38 points a game. They're only giving up 1 score a game. So we'll have our hands tied. But it'll be, I looked at over the last couple of weeks, and we've played some pretty good people. And in both games, our kids had to basically show a lot of fight and determination. We got behind 14 points in both those games and came back. And we've got some weapons ourselves, but we'll have to play a very good football game. And again, they're good on both sides of the ball, and they also got an outstanding kicker. Every one of their kickoffs will be a touchback, so we're not even working on kickoff this week. We kind of skipped that in practice.
So you talk about barn burners. One of the most exciting games I've watched this season was the game you all had against Southwind. Now, you didn't come out with the W on that, but it was very close, and it went all the way down to the wire. Do you think having a game like that where you were that close, that really helps when you talk about a team like Brentwood who's undefeated?
Yeah, because as far as comparing athletes, we're going to get the same caliber athlete that we're playing against this week. And having that experience and understanding the game speed, I think really helps our kids a lot this week.
Now, you talked about having to overcome some early adversity. Happened in the Christian Brothers game. Tough game as well. Talk about what you saw from your kids, because you had to come back and win that one in overtime, I believe. You throw a touchdown pass there to win it at the end of the game, in the overtime. So talk a little bit about what that showed you about your group.
Well, first it shows just the determination that they have, but the persistent effort that it takes to be successful, especially in this league and playing against top caliber teams. And we sort of dug a hole for us. We were down 14-0, then we cut it to 14-10, and then scored in the fourth. Then it goes up 17-10, and then tied in the fourth quarter, and then we missed a field goal attempt. They missed a field goal attempt, and then it puts it in overtime. It was a great atmosphere, a great game, and obviously being able to come out on top was very rewarding for our kids.
What have you liked about your guys this season? We've spoke ad nauseum on this program about the Tuckers, the Donaldsons, the McFaddens. How have you liked the progression from those guys this season?
The thing that I think is important for a football team is unity. And I think as the season's progressed as well, you've got to be able to trust one another. And it's created, I think we've created a bond or a closeness, and there's becoming a chemistry there that those kids kind of trust each other. And offense feeds off of defense and vice versa, defense feeding off of offense. And when you get that in combination, I think another element is we've had some injuries, and we've had some kids that have had to step up, and that's important too. And so everybody just understanding their role and doing their role is very important for the success of a team, and we've got a bunch of guys that are doing that.
What's it been like? we talk a lot about the guys whose names get called, the skill kids, but your lines have got to be doing their job well for those skill kids to be doing what they're doing. Talk a little bit about what you've seen from the big dogs eating up front.
Well, our offensive defensive line, and credit goes to our offensive defensive line coaches for kind of band-aiding things, because that's where we've had some losses. We had a couple of offensive defensive linemen that we lost to surgeries, and they were knee injuries. One we finally got back last week, and he played sparingly. And then against Southwind, we had another starting offensive defensive lineman that had to go through the concussion protocol. So he was out last week, and that hurts our depth. And we're sticking a couple of freshmen in there at times. They were getting obviously great game experience and understanding what it takes. But they've done a great job. They've come in, they've done well, and they've handled it real well. And our other kids, we put a little bit more load on them because there's not much tapping out and coming. It's like we don't have anybody else. And so credit to the coaches that coach them and them for just persevering. And again, we talk about determination. We also talk about toughness. And I think not only have our kids physically showed some toughness this year, but I think it showed a lot of mental toughness with a lot of the adversity that they have faced.
Now, looking at this Friday, you're fortunate to be able to have a team like this at home. And what I have gathered is you all have one of the better home crowds, or just your crowd, period. I remember at the Southwind game, it was a lot of noise on that side to kind of like take away Southwind's momentum, especially when you all scored. How good does that feel to be like, okay, we're going up against a tough opponent, but this time they're coming on our turf in front of our home crowd?
Well, I think it helps with routine. I think we're all creatures of habit, especially I am as a coach. But as a team, we get in kind of in sync with our routines, playing at home, and especially in our league, in our region, we have to travel a lot of times out of state, out of the city. And so having a team from Nashville have to travel and come to us, hopefully it kind of puts them out of routine a little bit. But for us, I love the routine. And of course, our kids love playing at home, and we've had a great student body support, and fans are showing up, and they're loud. And, that's been excellent. So our kids feed off of that as well. So hopefully it'll be another electric crowd and an electric night on Friday night.
All right, last question. I know we got to get you out of here. How ready are your kids for this challenge that is Brentwood Academy?
They're ready. I mean, they have, because we've already kind of gone through this in several scenarios. They had the big rivalry game last week, and then the week before with Southwind being, one of the top teams in the city, having those challenges. Our kids have faced it, and they're ready. So we got to shore up a few things today at practice, and I told them the big thing for this week too is have fun. Yeah. You get this opportunity very few times to just go out and let's have some fun, let it loose, and we'll see what happens.
Well, one thing you're not going to have to let loose is that kickoff return game, because like you said, it's all going to be touchbacks. So I will be out there live this week. It is this week's game of the week. Taking us to Briarcrest. They're going to be hosting the Brentwood Academy. It's going to be a great game. Should be a huge crowd on Friday night. I know Briarcrest is going to show up in full force. Be live out there at 5 and 6 with your live updates and reports, getting you ready for the game. Then we'll have complete highlights coming up at 10 o'clock. If I'm lucky, I'll get J.D. Donaldson catching another one-handed catch.
He's a
for our play of the night guy. I got that one on my phone, too. That's how good it was.
Two-time play of the night guy, J.D.
Time for our break. When we come back, more high school football. We're going to check in with Whitehaven head coach Rod Salisbury Jr. as the team gets ready for a big matchup coming up.
Whitehaven football has faced a season of ups and downs, and now the Tigers are getting ready for one of their biggest challenges yet.
But to hear Coach tell it every week is that big challenge, right? They'll hit the road Friday to face undefeated Southwind, a team known for its dominant offense, dominant defense, explosive offense. Coach Rodney Salisbury Sr. got it. Joins us back. I don't know why I said junior before, but joins us out. Let's talk about this matchup. We are talking about probably going to be one of the biggest games on the schedule this Friday for sure.
Oh, definitely. We're looking forward to it. Again, Coach Griffin has done a great job over at Southwind the years he's been there. They're moving up. They moved up to 6A this year, and they've come in with a bang. So we're really excited about having a really big game on Friday, going to visit Southwind. We're familiar with those guys. We're excited for another big game.
Now, Coach, the last time we saw you were at home against Mumford, a team, one of the remaining undefeated teams. It was a nail-biting loss. We just talked about the close game that Briarcrest had with Southwind, so it's like a connective tissue because y'all are playing Southwind and coming off of a nail-biting loss of y'all own against Mumford. Tell me about some of the lessons you learned from that game.
Oh, definitely, man. Details matter, and we tell our guys it's all about the little things, everything, so we've been harping on those things, the small details, making sure that you hone in on your job, because everything's about effort and execution. If you do your job well, you execute and take care of the little things, it will manifest itself, and you'll be victorious in the end. So we're, as we always say, we never lose, we learn. So we're learning those lessons, and we hope it manifests into a victory on Friday.
Now, so those losses, though, to really good teams. I mean, you're not just taking L's to take L's. You're losing to some great teams in a very tough schedule, and it doesn't get any easier any week. What's the message to the kids, because, a heartbreaking loss, those tough losses, you get in that locker room, and it's tough. You got to figure out what you want to say. What's the message to the kids as you turn the corner on some of these games?
Oh, well, effort is everything. We always talk about that, and we always are a preacher of iron sharpens iron. As one man sharpens another. Yep. So you want to play tough teams. You want to play in tough games. You have to learn how to win, learn how to close out victories, learn how to play with the lead, learn how to come back. So we've had both scenarios where we've had a lead, lost the lead, we're behind, had to come back. So learning all those different lessons and how to finish the game and to come out victorious in the end.
Now, Coach, you talk about effort. One of my favorite players in the Mid-South area, I always say call him number 21 like Barry, Christopher Talley. Yes. He had 4 touchdowns in that Mumford game. What does his performance say about your offense and just about him as a player, and how he continues to be the driving engine for your team?
Well, as a coach, if you're a defensive coach, running the football is a key, and it helps solve the game. As Mumford would attest, if you run the football, you control the clock, you can do a lot of things. But Christopher brings an added dimension because he's so explosive. I mean, he's probably one of the fastest kids in the state of Tennessee, one of the fastest kids in the country.
One of the best kids in the state of Tennessee.
And he is extremely explosive, so he can take a 5-yard touchdown and turn it to an 80-yard touchdown at any moment with that speed. So our job is to continue to create situations where we can get the ball in his hands and allow him to take over a football game.
Yeah, I've seen that personally when watching some of those games. His agility and ability to read and then make a cut is second. That's Barry Sanders.
Exactly.
Second
That's
to
why he
none.
wears 21. 21 like Barry.
That kid is so talented, and it's great to have it. Talk a little bit about what kind of a kid he is, though, off the field.
Oh, I say Christopher all the time. He's all boy. And he's bubbling over. He has energy, nonstop energy. I've known him since he was 6 years old. He had all the energy then. So we really enjoy him. And he's a true competitor. That's what I love. When the time gets tough, he raises his level of competition. And if you tell him it's a race, you tell him it's a game, and it's going to be a winner, he's going to fight. He's going to give his best effort. And again, he's a hurdler. So to be able to run fast, and now run fast with obstacles in the way, makes you a very, very tremendous athlete.
There's few things scarier in this world than the first time you hurdle.
Oh,
I'll say right now. The first time you hurdle, you ask yourself, do I really want to do this?
And especially when those high hurdles, I'm like, it's amazing just seeing him run and the determination that he has. I'm excited just to watch him play every day.
Now, looking at Southwind, like we said, they're undefeated. And an interesting thing they had before they played Briarcrest was they had a shutout streak where a team hadn't scored on them since week 1. Now, Briarcrest ended that when they played them, but you all still, to go against a team that you know is dominant defensively that can easily post shutout wins, what type of a challenge does that pose for your offense? Because it almost seems like it's the irresistible force versus the immovable object.
Oh, definitely. So our job is just to execute. Again, offense is all about all 11 doing their job. So, all right, we preach to those guys, do their 1 of 11. So if we execute, we block, we know we have some guys that can put the ball into the end zone. So our job is just continue to execute, call the plays, put the trust in the hands of the offensive coordinator, the plays he called, and with our quarterback, Jaden Thomas, with Christopher Talley back there in the backfield, and the guys and the weapons we have on offense. Offensive line is everything, and if we just execute, I feel we can put points on the board.
You still got to slow down Southwind's offense,
Yes.
though. I mean, that dual threat quarterback, the was Perkins, Kelvin Perkins.
Yeah.
He's talented as well.
Like Lamar-esque.
Right?
That's what I said last week.
So what's the theme this week as you're game planning, without giving away all the secrets, for trying to slow him down? Because if you slow him down, you got a chance, right?
Yeah, Kelvin is a great player. Again, we affectionately call him Lil P. Again, I've known him since middle school. Again, he's a great player. He works tremendously hard. Ironically, our quarterback and Little P are actually best friends. So it's friendly competition, but we're on the battlefield. We got to go and we got to make it happen. So we know that everything starts and ends with the quarterback, and Little P is extremely talented.
Yeah.
Again, so I've watched him grow. So I'm really excited to be able to play him. And defensively, you got to make sure you corral him because he is explosive. We just got to make sure that we're doing our jobs. And again, execution is everything.
Now, one thing I noticed from you all's game when I was talking to Ruben about the Mumford game is time of possession. I remember that first half, I feel like y'all only got like 2 possessions.
Yes.
So it seems like controlling the clock. So how much are y'all putting an emphasis on that coming into this game? Because, you know, Southwind does like to move fast. So sometimes when you have an explosive offense like Kelvin Perkins, got to make sure they don't have the ball in their hands. So how much are y'all like trying to emphasize that this Friday?
Oh, it's extremely important. Again, Mumford did a great job of that, possessing the ball. Again, and because it was a back and forth, and when we finally settled in on defense, we were able to get the ball back and do all those things. But keeping the clock going is extremely important. Making sure that, again, I say the best defense is on the sideline with your offense on the ball. So if we can possess the football, make sure we're moving the chains, it basically gives us an advantage against an explosive offense like Southwind.
All right, I know we got to get you out of here because you have other things to do besides just talk to us all day long. But what message would you give to people who maybe are trying to figure out what game they're going to go watch this week?
Oh, well, if you want to see exciting football, again, we're really excited about the city of Memphis overall and just the success that we're having on the football field. Again, across, my hat goes off to all the coaches around the city. But we have a great game that's going to be going on right there at Southwind on Shelby Drive, right there on the corner of Riverdale and Shelby Drive. So come on out, get your popcorn ready. We're for an exciting football game. 6A football in Memphis has always been a very exciting, with 2 regions here. You can't go wrong. But come on over and see Whitehaven play Southwind on Friday.
Now, Rich is going to be there, so he's expecting a plate of food from somebody, just so we're all on the same page.
I'm glad. So I'm glad you mentioned
Southwind.
I'm glad he mentioned it.
He said it ain't on me.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up because he didn't bring up food when we had Briarcrest in. So finally, as you know, it's a running thing. He's always talking about food. When I was at y'all game for homecoming, they took care of me and got me some food. If somebody pays attention on the show, be like, I got you, bro. That's what I'm saying.
Well, good luck this week. I'll call Southwind and make sure they know no plates available.
Hey, chill. I got Coach Griffin's number. He got me.
Yeah, take care of it.
Coach, appreciate your time and best of luck this week.
Appreciate
It's going to be a good game no matter what. All right, time for another break. We still got to touch base on one of the country's unbeaten football teams in college. We're talking about those Memphis Tigers still rolling. We're talking Tigers right after the break. All right, the Memphis Tigers football making some history this season, undefeated, ranked in the top 25 for the first time in years. The buzz is real. The questions are mounting. How far can they go?
That's why we brought in John Maddox, longtime Memphis sports analyst with On3, who's been watching this program for decades. John, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us today. Appreciate it.
John, appreciate you being here, brother.
Thanks a lot.
Let's get to it. Everybody is talking about the Memphis Tigers and what they've done so far this year. From all your years of experience of covering the Tigers, what do you think about this team?
I think this team's built a little different, and I know Coach Silverfield, you've heard him say that over and over, and I really feel like they are because these guys love each other. They want to be around each other all the time. And, you know, they're not turning the ball over much themselves. They're taking the ball away and they're playing for each other. And, you know, you look and the offense goes out there, does turn it over. Defense like, we got you. They get the ball right back. So I think this is one of the most talented teams Memphis has had. And the challenge coming in was, how do you get 70 new guys to buy into each other? And I think that's been kind of the remarkable thing, is you can just tell these guys are all in, pardon the expression, with each other.
So they've been running with swagger this year, but how much do you think the success is scheme versus just having the right talent?
Well, I think it's a combination of both, Richard. It's, you know, Brendan Lewis has been the difference. You know, Memphis has not had a mobile quarterback for a very, very long time, a true guy that can change the game with his legs. And to me, that has just really been the big difference, is that, you know, now Coach Cramsey can scheme things a little differently. And then on the other side, you have to account for that, right? And then on the defensive side of the ball, just so much speed. And you know, Coach Hankins is we call him a crazy person, because he's very stoic, but he's chaos. He wants to create chaos, and that's what they do a good job of. And again, it's just that camaraderie, and I think a lot of it is scheme. But look, it don't matter. The X's and O's don't matter unless you got the Jimmies and Joes.
Yeah, that's what they say.
You know, and that's just how it is. And, you know, Ryan Silverfield has proven how good of a recruiter he is, and how great, you know, Memphis just doesn't miss on a lot of guys. That's the thing. They don't bring a lot of guys in and like, well, that didn't work out. So I think that's really been the key, is just a combination. Both those things have to work together.
Now, while everybody takes, you know, pride in being in the top 25, hey, you're in the top 25, you've cracked that mold or whatever, really the goal is college football playoffs for this team.
Yeah.
You know, for some teams, top 25 might be the goal, but for this team, it seems like the college football playoffs is the goal. So how real are we, you know, how close are we getting to having that real conversation?
Well, I think the realness sets in starting October 18th when you go on the road to UAB, and that's a game, of course, Memphis should handle. But, you know, you've got South Florida, Tulane, Navy, a road trip to East Carolina. So, you know, and South Florida is a team, they're going to learn who they are this week when they go to North Texas or play North Texas. So
is North Texas still undefeated?
Yes, they are still undefeated.
Yep.
They're 5-0, but much like
team.
Memphis, they're untested. You know, that's the thing. Navy has kind of untested. You know, South Florida, they didn't fail their first big test with Miami, but they didn't play very well. So, you know, this second half is going to tell the story for a lot of teams. I think it's real. I think, you know, the winner of the American, I would bet you guys paychecks that the winner of the American goes to college football.
Bet his is bigger than mine.
But I mean, I would really think that, you know, that's kind of the thought process, is whoever can win this league is going. And, you know, Memphis has shown, you know, they run the way they play, as they say, the way they play football travels and can win you games in November.
Now, talking about something that will most doubtedly win games for Memphis is turnovers. Turnovers are huge for Memphis this year. In fact, I think they're tied for third in the nation in takeaways. How much is that feeling this run? Do you feel like Memphis's defense is legit?
Yeah, I think they are. But again, I mean, you know, nobody's really been tested yet. But I feel like they are legit. And turnovers are the story, man. If you know, the thing about turnovers, too, I've watched a lot of football, is it's not just when you turn or that you turn the ball over. Let's say you're on your own 20 and you throw a long interception out to the 45. Well, that's terrible. It's not the end of the world, right? It's a punt. But when you are on your own 5 and you throw an interception to the 15, like Tulsa found out this week, that's where the turnovers really play in. And then the flip side of that is, you're third in the nation in turnovers, that's fine, but you got to cash those in. And that's something Memphis has done a really good job of this year, is when opponents make mistakes, they make you pay for that mistake.
So Tulsa was not, I don't think, you know, I worked in Tulsa for a long time. Worked in Tulsa for a long, long time. And Tulsa football had a little bit of that prestige, like they were close to being an up-and-comer, right, in the conference. And so to watch Memphis just manhandle Tulsa, and I mean just completely manhandle Tulsa, and I'm sorry, my TU people, was a little bit, to me, like an eye-opener of, okay, this Tigers team is on a mission. Unfortunately, Arkansas not as good of a win as you would like. So these games become crucial. How important is this bye week that they've got, though, to get them to kind of like reset and get refocused to the second half of the season?
Well, you know, it's one of those things, if you guys are NFL fans, you know, coaches talk about all the time. Do we want, you know, we've secured our playoff spot. Do we want to rest all of our guys this week so they're healthy for next week? And, you know, there's two schools with that, right? Well, the argument is, well, no, you lose momentum. And I think that's kind of what Coach Schillfield's really going to have to balance here is Memphis been on a roll. There's no doubt about it. And is the week off what they need? Now, I will say it's probably advantageous that you're coming back to play a UAB team that's down versus we got a week off and now we got to turn around and play South Florida. But I think the bye, you know, they've got some guys, he says it all the time, and all coaches say, nobody's not injured this time of the year. It's are you hurt or are you injured?
And say that all the time.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is they've got some guys that are banged up that, you know, could use a week of a few days off of not hitting each other. And, you know, we talked about this Monday in the press conference that, you know, even though these guys love each other, they need to get away from one another for a little bit. Yeah. And, you know, academics kind of reset, as you said, that's a great way to put it, refocus. But I also think that coming out of that is where coaches make their money, right? Is coming out, you've got 18 to 23-year-olds, and they've been off for 4 or 5 days, and now you've got to get them back into that role really quick because UAB, while they're down this year, they're gonna throw everything they got at you. So got to be ready. You still could.
Now, we brought up South Florida a lot on this program, and obviously talking about Memphis's buzz. I'm sure you've heard the chatter on social media. A lot of talk about that USF-Memphis game being possibly could ESPN College Game Day come here. How realistic is that, and do you think what would that mean for our area if that were to happen?
Well, I will say that when I heard it the first part of the week, I was, 0% chance. And that has nothing to do with Memphis USF. That's not any disrespect, but you've got Texas, I think it's Texas A&M.
Yeah, what other games are on there?
Yeah, LSU, you got Ole Miss, and Oklahoma, so you have 2 top 10 teams probably there. But, the Memphis SMU game day in 2019 is something most people will never forget. It was an unbelievable day. Never thought it would happen. It took all apologies to Tulsa, took a missed field goal by a Tulsa place kicker to put Memphis in that position. And look, anytime, Coach talks about this, time you can see the big jumping tiger on television and look across that scroll and see a number next to Memphis's name, it does nothing but good things for the program. So it would be a huge day. I buy into the coach speak, I guess. I don't think they're really focused on stuff like that. It is game at a time. And, the truth is Memphis and USF both have to take care of business to get to that position.
Yeah, I think that gets overlooked sometimes. And to your point, sometimes we label it as coach speak, but sometimes it really is the way. Because in football, it's such a disciplined sport. It's Monday you do the same thing, Tuesday you do. It never changes throughout the course of the week. And so for those coaches, while having game day, to your point, Rich, would be great, the marketing department would love it.
Yeah.
The athletic director would love it, right? All those people would eat that up. But the football staff itself would have to ignore it because otherwise your players can get distracted and mess around and lose a game that they need to win. And so while that would be great, in some ways it might be more of a distraction than a help.
What is it? Nick Saban calls it rat poison.
Rat poison.
Yeah, you guys giving us, giving these guys their rat poison.
Yeah. So before we get out of here, I know you have other things to do besides hang out with us all day, even though we are a joy to hang out with.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about what you've seen. Just take a step back and say, what have you seen from Memphis fans just as they're enjoying this run by the Tigers? Because you don't want to lose sight of enjoying the run.
No, and I tell people that all the time. And one of the things I said a couple weeks ago was, those of us who've been around a long time, if you would have told me in 2014 that Memphis would have the longest winning streak in the country, would have a 46-game streak of scoring more than 20 points, would have been to 12 straight bowl games. The only question I would have expected to be asked is which mental institution would you like to be sent to next? But I think Memphis fans can sometimes get a little ahead of themselves and not have the appreciation for that. But it's been a run. I think fans are excited, and that's great, is that, the fan base is engaged, because that hasn't always been the case here, guys. The Memphis fan base wasn't always, it's still a basketball town, but they weren't always engaged with Memphis football. And I think you've kind of seen that change over the last few years. And, this has the potential to be a special season. I mean, now even other than 2019, where the big prize was the New Year's Six game, right? The Cotton Bowl, that was the big prize. Now you can do something even more special. And you legitimately, if you get in there, the odds are against you, but you have a chance to go win a national title. And I think that that's one thing fans shouldn't lose sight of is how special and a privilege it is to even be talked about in that part of the conversation.
Yep.
You can catch his work on on3memphis.com, the Tiger Sports Report. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, John,
guys.
handling your business as always. We appreciate it. We got to get you back on here.
Anytime.
All right, time to take a break. We come back. We're going to be talking about the Ole Miss Rebels as they come off the bye week. The Rebels face Washington State and host their last home game for a while. We've got another insider right after the break.
Welcome back. Ole Miss is cruising into Week 7, undefeated at 5-0, and they're set to host a stiff test this Saturday, Ruben.
Yeah, it might be tougher than it looks on paper, right? Washington State coming to town, and Rebels head coach Lane Kiffin sounding the alarm that it won't be an easy matchup.
And to continue the conversation about Ole Miss, you can't talk about them without having this guy in the conversation. He is the host of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, which you can catch on the 24 Plus app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Welcome to the program once again, Mr. Stephen Willis. You know I got to give you the one clap.
All right. It's almost like he's a quarterback, Stephen.
That's
like,
why I do it.
But you're not a quarterback.
I do it. The QB. Yeah. QB1.
Yeah.
Definitely not a quarterback.
I think he's living vicariously.
Yes, through anybody.
I live through Trinidad. That's my guy. Vicariously through Trinidad. Don't get me started.
Stephen, let's start with you so I don't have to listen to him talk about Trinidad. First of all, let's talk about it. Realistically, how much of a challenge is Washington State? I know we all want to say, you can't mess up. They're going to be tougher than they look and all that. But what are we really talking about here?
I think the line is pretty close to accurate. Ole Miss is favored by 33 points. Now, Washington State is
Wait, say that again.
Ole Miss is favored by 33 points. So it could get one-sided. But this is the thing that everybody needs to realize. Washington State actually might be the team that throws the ball, has the best passing game of any team that Ole Miss has played this far. They're an air raid team. They were schooled under Ben Arbuckle, who's at Oklahoma. It's those guys. So they pass the ball and they catch the ball very well. They're completing about 70% of their passes. They don't complete for a lot of yards and they don't score a lot of points because this is a first-year coach and everything's just a little bit clunky. But this is something that is carrying over right now. And if Washington State has a path in this game, that's the path.
So for Ole Miss, is this a game where we might see bigger roles for Caden Lee or Kejuan Lacey? It feels like Kejuan Lacey at the beginning of the season, I was saying he had some Doak Walker buzz. And then it seems like defenses were able to key in on him. He's only getting like 2 yards, 3 yards a game, but they're still feeding him. Do you feel like this is the game where he kind of explodes again? Or even, like I said, on the wide receiver side on Caden Lee, does he have a spotlight game?
I don't know if it's Caden Lee. I think Deshaun Stribling could be the wide receiver that pops this weekend. He actually started out at Washington State before he transferred to Oklahoma State. So I imagine there's a little bit extra juice in that for him. But I do think this is a Kejuan Lacey game. If you look at the video of the Washington State Cougars, they're a little bit, I don't want to say soft, but they have problems on the edges. They're susceptible to the counter. Washington in the Apple Cup actually used that to great effect with Jonah Coleman. I think you might see Ole Miss do a lot of the same stuff, especially with Trinidad Chambliss. There's actually a lot of similarities between Jonah Coleman and Damon Williams and Trinidad Chambliss and Kejuan Lacey. I think that might be the way to attack this defense. Washington scored 59 on them. North Texas scored 59 on them. They did a pretty good job against San Diego State, Idaho, and Colorado State, but it's kind of a Jekyll and Hyde situation for the Washington State defense right now.
So talk a little bit about the rest. It's been, you get that bye week, you get that rest. How beneficial has that been for this Ole Miss team? Because this time of the year, everybody's banged up.
Well, I don't think that Ole Miss wanted the bye week this time after that LSU game. I think Ole Miss wanted to keep playing. And I talked to Bill Flowers every week on my show. And Bill Flowers was a wide receiver at Ole Miss back in the early 2000s. He played with Eli. And he said that players hate bye weeks. It doesn't matter how beat up you are. Coaches might talk about late season bye weeks as being a good thing because you can heal up, but players genuinely do not like it because it can kill the continuity. It can kill the rhythm of an offense, especially in the passing game. And if you go back to 2003, Ole Miss played LSU for a chance to win the SEC and get to Atlanta. And Ole Miss had trouble in the passing game, and a lot of that was due to the rhythm being broken up by the week previous having an off week. I think it's good that Ole Miss has an off week before Washington State instead of having an off week before Georgia, if that makes sense.
So what Washington State does, like you talked about it, they throw the ball well, and at times it seems they've shown some strong defensive play. Do you see any potential mismatches that Washington State could try to exploit, and what does Ole Miss have to be on the lookout for? Because even though the three of us know that this should be an Ole Miss route, Lane Kiffin is giving a lot of credit to Washington State, and I'm not trying to say he's being fake humble, but I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, Stephen.
He's doing the coach speak thing, right? He actually said in the teleconference today that the number one team in the SEC is playing the number one team in the Pac-12. Oh, there's only two teams in the Pac-12.
He was trolling because it's only two teams.
It did that. Lane Kiffin is working overtime to make sure that he talks to his team through the media, and he is breaking out every trick that they have because this is a trap game. For real, this is the textbook definition of a trap game. You come off of LSU, everybody tells you how great you are for 2 weeks. Next week is the game at the Georgia Bulldogs that if Ole Miss wins and Georgia beats Auburn, game day could be in town for that. With all of that going on, this is a game against Washington State that Ole Miss just needs to win by 1 point. It doesn't matter. You're number 4 in the country. You have all the style points you need. Just win the football game.
And while, again, that does become a thing, right? You know, so the players, especially with all the social media and all the talk, the players start to hear and how good they are, and you're number 4 in the country, and you got to play Washington State. I mean, I think that is a real challenge for coaches like Lane Kiffin to try to keep their kids, their players, focused as you head into the game because you don't want to slip up against a Washington State. A late season loss like that against a team that's not very good hurts you a lot.
Yeah, you lost to Kentucky last year in a situation kind of similar, a game that you thought you were going to roll straight through. If this game was in Pullman, if this was a road game, it would be an upset alert game. It legitimately would. Ask Penn State about UCLA.
Yeah.
You know, whenever you go on the road, it's just a different animal. Ole Miss playing at home helps them out. Honestly, they timed this up pretty well. It might be sloppy. It might not look particularly good. But like I said, just get the win, move on to Georgia, and watch as the season really kind of goes. Because if Ole Miss splits, honestly, against Georgia and Oklahoma, if they split those games, Ole Miss is in the Atlanta talk at that point.
Now, looking at Ole Miss and their success, this is, as we've said many times on the program, this is the best start that they've had in years. How much of their success do you think comes from the offense adapting to the quarterback change to Chambliss versus just straight great individual play across the board?
I don't know too much, and it's not to say that there hasn't been a little bit of jet fuel that's been added to the engine on the offense. Ole Miss dominated Georgia State after 2 interceptions from Austin Simmons. Then they dominated Kentucky after the 2 interceptions that happened in the first quarter. They outscored them 30-13 after that. They've been pretty much an untested football team this year. And that's weird thinking that you played number 4 ranked LSU in 3 conference games has happened. But if Ole Miss catches interceptions against Arkansas, that's a 41-17 game. If interceptions don't get thrown to where the turnover battle happens, They completely don't even have an issue with the Kentucky Wildcats at any point. And we all saw them take apart the LSU Tigers. They haven't really been tested to this point in the season. Washington State, I'm not expecting that as well, but it's going to get real going on the road to Georgia and to Oklahoma. So you need this game to simulate as best you can to get your players ready to go to Sanford Stadium for that 2:30 kickoff, to go to Oklahoma for that noon kickoff. Because like I said, splitting those games, that's kind of the season if you want to have a really, really special season.
You know, what we haven't really talked about much at this point is, has it gotten weird?
Yeah.
You know, what quarterback talk, I mean, for all of us at this point, it's just like Chambliss is just a man and everybody just kind of accepts it. But what's the talk in the locker room?
Are we talking Heisman yet, Steven?
Well, we are talking Heisman. All the list that
yes.
comes out, he's about
Yes,
3 to 7 popping on that list. But listen, in the teleconference today, Lane Kiffin said he hasn't even named a starting quarterback this weekend. So I don't know if Trinidad's going to be the guy, which means they're playing game. They're doing what they're doing. And all of this, by the way, is not for Washington State's benefit. This is for Kirby's benefit. And they're playing games like this, trying to get a quarterback controversy into the Georgia week. If they can make that happen, I think the easiest decision that Lane Kiffin has is that Trinidad Chambliss is going to take the first snap against Washington State. I think that's a slam dunk. I think how that game goes, the question of how do you use Austin Simmons if that game goes really well? How does that look? But the first snap, I think that's a slam dunk. There's no doubt that you start Trinidad Chambliss. But there is a little bit of weirdness that's out there, and we'll see if it kind of goes for about the next week.
It feels like Ole Miss has been kind of, well, Ole Miss fans, I should say, have been kind of spoiled, Steven, because it's like, I'm looking at right now, and I've been at every Ole Miss home game, and it's been like 5. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, dang, like, it's a lot of games at home. But what I talked to Ruben about is for Chambliss, he's obviously got to take care of business this Saturday. But what is he going to look like when he goes on the road? Like you said, playing UGA and playing OU. So how can we reel things in for fans to have realistic expectations about the season? Because the biggest games now are those 2 road games.
Yeah, and realistic expectations, if we're going to be real at this point, is everything. Everything's on the table for Ole Miss at this point. There's nobody on your schedule that you can't beat. There's no award that you can't win. And that's the thing that's going to be problematic with the Ole Miss fan base, because they are realizing that as well. And going to Georgia and going to Oklahoma, maybe you play those road games with a little bit more confidence. Maybe that's a good thing to have on the road, especially after the game at Florida and at LSU a year ago. Maybe you go into it a little bit differently. Maybe the experience of Trinidad Chambliss, who most everybody at this point is expecting to win the job, is going to take his national championship pedigree and give you a little bit something extra that you didn't have, believe it or not, with the first round quarterback in Jackson Dart. Winning a national championship, it doesn't matter if it's D2, D3, or 6A high school. You have to have a special quarterback that can handle and perform under the circumstances to do that. And that's the reason there's been not a hiccup with Arkansas. There's been not a hiccup with Tulane or LSU, because this is a guy that just figures it out. He has the championship type pedigree. And as that cascades over his other teammates, these elite playmakers that he has, Ole Miss has a chance to be a little bit calmer than they were a year ago. Last year, there was a little bit of a panic. When plan A didn't work, there was not really a plan B. This year, man, he's completing passes to like 9 different receivers in a game. Last year, it was like 4 or 5. And stuff like that gives me hope going on the road to Sanford Stadium. Gives me hope going on the road to Norman, that they'll be able to handle those environments. I don't expect anybody to be wowed by the moment, but I could be wrong. The last time Ole Miss went over to Georgia, they got 50 burgered. But I don't think that that's going to happen this year.
All right, I haven't heard the term 50 burgered in a long time. Steven, appreciate your time today, brother. As always, great insight as we get ready for this weekend's matchup. again, should not be close, but hey, crazier things have happened.
I look forward to being at Vaught Hemingway again, Ruben.
Yeah, do your thing. All right,
One more
Stephen,
time for a while.
have a great day. Appreciate you. Don't forget, you can always check out Stephen on the Locked On podcast, and he's always on his YouTube channel as well, and you can catch him again on our 24 Plus show, on our 24 Plus app, and it goes always here on our 24th Floor show as well. More on Stephen.
See you later, Stephen.
Take care.
I don't know. I mean, Ruben said it best.
All right, time for another break. Rich?
Yep, coming up, ever bet on a sure thing and watched it crumble? We're breaking down the curse of the mush and how not to be that guy. Stay close. What up, and welcome to the 901 Bets. Think of this as sports betting for dummies right here in Memphis. Before we get rolling, quick reminder, if gambling has become a problem for you, hit that Tennessee Gambling Hotline, that number right on your screen, 800-889-9789. All right, y'all, it's time for another round of Bankroll Basics. Today's word, mush. Well, a mush is that one friend who just can't seem to catch a break. Every time they place a bet, something goes wrong. Let's say they pick the Grizzlies to cover. Ja sits out. Let's say they pick the Tigers basketball team to win big. The shots stop falling. They could bet the sun will rise tomorrow and it probably rain instead. So you know the type, you're watching a game, everything's looking good, and then your buddy says, we got this locked in. Then boom, the other team goes on a 10-0 run. Yeah, I have literally seen that happen. Now in betting circles, calling someone a mush is mostly for fun. It's a running joke. But hey, if folks start calling you one, maybe you should take a break from picking spreads for a minute. So remember, every friend group has got a mush. Just make sure it's not you. Stay smart, Memphis, and make your bets hit, not jinx. All right, let's get to this week's Bluff City lines. The Tigers are on a bye this week, so our eyes turn to Oxford, where Ole Miss takes on Washington State. Now look, I made a promise to myself, no more dealing with Ole Miss spreads. I've been burned too many times. So this week, I'm sticking to the money line and the total, which is set at 58.5. Ole Miss has been hot, 3-0 straight up and against the spread in their last 3. But here's what's interesting. Only one of those games hit the over of this game. Their last 3 have averaged just under 60 points, which is barely above this week's total of 58.5. Washington State's been winning too, but their games have averaged just 52 points. So with both teams trending lower on totals, I like the under here. Give me Ole Miss to win outright, but in a slower, tighter matchup. Moneyline Rebels, under 58.5. And all right, I know I get to yapping on here, and some of y'all probably wonder, does this guy's bets even hit? Well, let's check the receipts. Last week, it was just Memphis in action, so I took the totals, the spread, and the money line. I nailed the money line. That one was pretty easy. I hit the under, too, with the final score sliding under 56.5. But Tulsa covering that 20.5, yeah, that one didn't cash. So I went 2-1 last week, bringing my overall record to 11-8. Still sitting pretty if you ask me. Winning record, and we're keeping it on rolling. And as always, send me your takes. If you have a betting terminology you're unsure of, send it my way. Want my opinion on a slip or a ticket you have? Send it my way. And man, if you even want to spotlight your W, we will give you your flowers on this program because we have fun over here, man. At me on X at RD2 Sports. Text the number 901-321-7520 or just use the hashtag ABC24Floor. But in saying all that, remember folks, producer has a right, bring it up one more time. This content is for entertainment purposes only. ABC24 and its affiliates do not encourage gambling. Viewer discretion is advised. Any betting decisions you make are solely your responsibility. We are not responsible for any financial losses or wins resulting from information presented on this program. That'll do it for this edition of 901 Bets. Coming up on Best Thing I Saw, one play had everyone at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium talking. I think you may know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, you won't want to miss this highlight.
All right, you know what time it is. It's time for Best Thing We Saw.
Yes, Memphis had a free play, a high throw from quarterback Brendan Lewis to the corner of the end zone. Look at that, Ruben. One guy just making it look effortless. I'm talking jaw-dropping, one-handed magic, Cortez Bram Jr. Crowd went wild, and that's the best thing we both saw this week.
Yeah, I was watching the game at home because I was at the house by that time, and when I saw that snag, I said, oh no, that might be. I've seen several one-handed catches this year that I thought were highlight worthy, and that's up there in the top 4 or 5 for sure.
See, to me, it felt more special because I was
You were there.
Like
you were right there.
That's my video. That's me. I shot that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but to me, that clip, that snag, just kind of sums up Memphis right now. They're just taking it. They're taking what they want.
Was it better that catch or Odell?
Oh no! Don't do that. Don't do that.
That catch ain't better than Odell. Well, allegedly, Brendan Lewis said that Cortez used 3 fingers when catching it. I think Odell just was the straight one.
Now he was all the way back and straight, and there was another
Cortez
dude
three fingers
this
up.
year that did one of those. It was all the way back. So let's not take away from his one shining moment here on this one.
One shining
that song,
moment.
that song they play.
One shining moment.
Great catch, huge play. Free play, no doubt, and it sums up what the Tigers are doing. Like I said, they're just taking right now. So
Did it kind of hurt a little bit that it went up against Tulsa?
Nah, man. I went to school at Oklahoma State.
I know, but still, you have a lot of love for the people in Tulsa.
I have a lot of Tulsa ties, and
I have some friends who live in Tulsa, but I don't have no real connection to them like that.
True story is Tulsa, not too indifferent from Memphis, has had trouble in the past filling the stadiums, right? Getting people to be bought in, and so Tulsa's been struggling a little bit. I got some friends of mine, some guys I know that coach over there right now, and I hope they turn it around. I hope they get what they need out of it because there's some good dudes there. But right now, Memphis is on top of that.
Yes, I can't echo that sentiment because they beat Oklahoma State. So,
who hadn't been
you know what I'm
these last
saying?
2 years? All right. That's going to do it for today's episode of the 24th Floor. Shout out to everybody who made today's show possible.
Especially Azarite Calum for their work behind the scenes.
Maybe not them as much.
Putting the show together. Big shout out to Briarcrest head coach Phil Massey, Whitehaven head coach Rodney Salisbury, Sr., on threes, John Maddox, and as always, our guy Stephen Willis for coming on the show today. It was jam-packed, Ruben.
Yeah, I'm going to edit out AZ's name in this one, though, so they don't get any credit. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you on the other side.
You